everybody. Welcome, Jack. Welcome.
Thank you, Cecily.
Thank you.
It is incredible to have you both here. And I just want to start with a minute to just let it sink in. I know you both have traveled far. We're all emerging in our own way after a couple years of a whole bunch of different things for all of us. And it's just very powerful to have you here and everyone. Thank you so much. What a privilege. I know when we were preparing, Jack, you had some questions that you thought might be good to just familiarize ourselves a bit with who's in the room today.
Yeah, it feels really important. First of all, I'm really happy to be here. I've been in Wisdom 2.0 since its genesis. And it feels really important to connect somehow and not just get on stage and be Dancing Bear or whatever, we're hired. Especially Dancing Bear is Russian, so we have to, but we'll leave that aside. We'll get to that. So I have some questions for you. How many of you are technologists, where that's your main work? Okay, I'm a minority. How many of you are therapists, counselors, teachers in the helping professions? You're helping those technologists. Okay, that's great. How many of you are scientists? Wonderful. How many lawyers? Yay, there's a handful. Parents? Oh yeah, about half the group. How many of you meditate in a regular way? Wow, that's fantastic. Many, many. All right, how many of you are concerned about the growing polarization in the society and the world? Pretty much every hand. How many of you are concerned about climate change? I want you to feel this too. It's not just that you raise your hand, but that we're actually in this together and in this conversation together. How many of you hope that technology will help solve these problems? And how many of you are concerned that technology could also be misused and make things worse? So look at that too. These are part of the reasons actually that we're here, to have this kind of a conversation and the time we're in. So yeah. I appreciate it because there's a way of feeling, okay, now I know who we are in this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. So we have some big topics we're going to get to today. I wish we had hours, but we'll make the most use of the time we do have. I wanted to start with something a bit personal. So we are all really effectively emerging on theme with this day from a couple of years of, for many of us, isolation, changes in the way that we work and live, relate to family and beyond. And Jack, I'd love to start with you, just kind of in this moment, in this time. I know you haven't actually even been in a room like this since COVID began, so it's a huge honor and privilege that you've joined us today. How has this emergence been for you and your work and your being?
I'm actually taking it very slow, partly because I'm about to turn 77, and I haven't had COVID yet. I'm sure I'm going to get it, but I'm putting it off a little bit and see.
Please do.
It's fantastic to see people in person. I mean, we've been longing for that. Look, Zoom has been a lifesaver, and it's been shocking to see how good it is in creating retreats and creating connection. And it's still a really limited channel, that screen. And there are things that we get nurtured by and need from one another. And so I'm just kind of coming out and going, I want to be cautious, but this is who we are. Yeah. We really have to hold hands together.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Diego, how about you?
Similar to Jack, this is my first time at a live event since February, since the last Wisdom 2.0.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened right at the cusp when the pandemic was reaching the United States. So it feels quite beautiful to see old friends, to meet new people. I was really fortunate to have a pretty tight affinity group, a group that I could spend time with in person, other fellow meditators, and then my wife's family and my family. So we had our unit, but it's nice to just be here together as a collective. Yeah, get to share space. Similar to Jack, just I haven't gotten COVID yet, so we'll see what happens. But it's nice to just like to live life together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a club I hope you guys don't have to join. Yeah, that's excellent. So when I think about the two of you and kind of the theme of this talk in general is about just generations and how you both have this very powerful presence, impact, voice. You're very different followings and very different modalities. You did both go on some type of a life journey or quest and have some experiences and bring back some knowledge and experience, very different quests, but you did both have this feature of your paths. And you came back and you found ways to share your teachings, your learnings, your wisdom with these broad audiences. You both are very successful authors and inspire so many people around the world in different ways. And it's obvious to see maybe one is more in teachings and in books and in retreats. And Diego, you're leveraging technology really for healing. It's something John spoke about this morning. Like, technology can actually be used for healing. But I wonder, and maybe we wonder, are the teachings evolving also? Or is it just the way that we're delivering them that is kind of adapting to our times, digital or not?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's kind of all the above. I think the teachings are definitely evolving because that's the nature of when you receive a teaching, it enters your perception, it hits you with some truth, but then it also goes outward through your perception, so it's not going to be quite the same as what you got. And I think just for me personally, like I take meditation really seriously. I think that's when I conceive of my own identity, the first thing is I'm a meditator. That's what I take seriously. When I plan my year, the first thing I do is plan my time for retreats, and then everything else comes after. But I don't really, when I enter the digital space, what I want to do is sort of reflect in a way where I'm actively trying to reach people who've never seen a therapist yet, who've never meditated yet, people who are just starting to turn that lens inward and give them something to reflect on. And in that way, I've sort of taken the teachings and synthesized the way that they've affect my everyday life. And so I think they definitely are changing, but I think it's great to be able to leverage just the tech that we have and, enter a space like Instagram that can be so difficult on the mind, right? Just like making you more addicted, making you more lonely, affecting you in these ways that are not good for your mental health, but then try to flip the script and, bring forward simplicity so that it's much more easier for the mind to process, and just like encourage people to follow the things that help them be the best version of themselves, as opposed to just feeding their craving, which is a lot of what's happening on the internet. Yeah.
And a follow-up question to that, do you find that what you're offering through Instagram is just pouring out of you from your practice, or are you in an engagement with your followers? Are you learning from them what they're moved or inspired by?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely learning from them, but more so on the smaller scale. I think for the Instagram account itself, I try my best not to read comments, and for the sake of my own mental health, it's just like too much. And the DMs as well, but I take much more seriously, with my Substack and my newsletter that I'm putting out, which I put forward a lot longer, deeper writings, and I'll get emails back from people, and that is, there's this sort of touch of vulnerability and genuineness that you get from that person-to-person contact through email, whereas, on social media platforms, people can just kind of they just kind of say whatever, and a lot of times you just read rough things and you're like, I don't even know how to respond to that, so I'm just not going to. Yeah.
That's great. It's inspiring to us all. And Jack, so A Path with Heart, which is one of your most beloved books, and something that has been a resource for so many people, and just a kind of a cornerstone, I believe, of your work and offering as an author in addition to a teacher. This was 47 years ago you published it, and you're still such an active and generous teacher in the community, and I know you offer so much, and we'll talk a bit about what you're doing globally as well soon, but have your teachings evolved? Are you shifting with the times as well?
So first, I want to talk a little bit about the question of, do things evolve? And I loved your answer, Diego.
Yeah.
Of course they do. but I've been in these fancy teacher meetings with Buddhist teachers and wise people and shamans and stuff from around the world for a long, And one of the arguments that happens is you're watering it down, you're not keeping the original real teachings, the conservative ones, and then, but if you just conserve it, it's going to die out. We have to make it fresh. And I listen and I remember that, as the history tells it, that the week after the Buddha died, he said, you can abolish some of the minor rules and things, you can change things. But he made the mistake of not saying which things you could change. So all of a sudden there was an argument. Okay, well, he didn't say, so we should keep everything the same. And then these other people say, no, he told us we can change it, we need to. And they started fighting. And I'll sit in that room and I'll say, you are probably those same people born again to try and figure it out in this lifetime. But what's true is that the answer for things, we live in a very black and white culture, and the answer is yes. We need conservation, and we need depth, and that's really important. And one of the beautiful things that online teaching has begun to show us is that there are ways to do that. Yeah. But we also need, Buddhism was patriarchal. Forget that whatever it is. We don't need that. Buddhism there are things that really do need to evolve and become more conscious, and both of those are important. One of the things that's a really big gift, and you sort of pointed to it, Cecily, is that I've actually been doing a lot online, and one of the questions that people ask more than anything around the world is, how do I get a teacher? Because almost everything online is one way. Yeah. Here's a meditation, here's some beautiful teachings, here's something you can do. And it goes to your very first question, we actually want relationship. Yeah. We want to be known and know. So I'm part of a new company called Cloud Sangha, and you can get a teacher who you meet with every week in a very small group for a year, and they get to know you and you know them and you work in your practice. And this, to me, is one of the blessings of what's possible, of how we can foster growth. And I've also got this other teacher training with Tara Brach, the mindfulness teacher training. We've got 5,000 people in 70 countries who've learned to be mindfulness teachers and compassion teachers. All around the world, this couldn't have happened 10 years ago. Yeah. And the pandemic has actually made it all the more so. So in some way, we're being invited to evolve and find new forms. And at the same time, we have to pause regularly and say, what's the deepest thing that we can teach and share and be with? How can we create a genuine space of attention and respect?
Yeah, beautiful, thank you.
I'm going to add one thing, sorry.
Please.
And that's because maybe we'll get to it, to global issues and things. Anybody who looks can see that no amount of technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, space technology, AI, all that, is going to stop continuing warfare and racism and economic injustice and climate change, because those are all rooted in the human heart. Yeah. That's where they start. And so we now have to have the miracle of the technology matched by a transformation of the human heart. And that's the place that we sit in now as human beings.